You think you know why an older woman lives alone without a man? But I can promise you the real reasons are not what most people assume. Some of the happiest, most emotionally healthy women I work with in my practice are women who live alone. And some of the loneliest women I see are the ones who are still in relationships. In this video, I'm going to tell you the truth about older women who live alone, the psychology behind their choices, and the 3 secret advantages they have that most men never understand. I'll also show you the hidden danger that almost no one talks about, a danger that can quietly steal their joy even when they appear strong and independent on the outside. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some women feel safer and more themselves without a man in their home, how to know if your independence is healthy or actually protecting an old wound, and what you must do if you want to enjoy your solitude without slipping into painful loneliness. And there is one specific mistake I see older women make over and over again that turns their independence into self-sabotage. I'll reveal that near the end, so stay with me. I'm a male therapist, and for many years I've sat across from women who raised families, survived betrayals, buried husbands, divorced after decades, or simply decided they were done carrying a man on their back. They come into my office with different stories, but there is a pattern. Once you see this pattern, you will never look at an older woman who lives alone the same way again. In this video, I'm not here to judge your choices. I'm here to explain them. I'm here to help you see your life with more clarity, more compassion, and more power. So let's start with the biggest misunderstanding people have about women who live alone. Part 1. The shallow assumption. Most people see an older woman living alone and think only in 3 narrow categories. She couldn't get a man, she must be bitter, or she must be terribly lonely. These are shallow assumptions and they are often completely wrong. I want you to think of a woman I'll call Margaret. She's 68, retired, has her own small apartment, makes her morning tea in silence, and no one is calling her from the next room. Her children are adults. Her phone is quiet. From the outside, someone might label her as alone and sad. Inside, the truth is very different. Margaret told me, "For the first time in my life, my mind is quiet. I don't wake up and immediately brace myself for someone's mood. I sit with my tea and I actually hear my own thoughts." Notice something important here. She is alone, but she is not in pain. That silence is not emptiness to her. It is peace. This is the first truth. Many older women living alone are not running away from love. They are running toward peace. In a moment, I'll tell you about another woman whose life looked almost identical on the outside, but felt very different on the inside. But first, we need to understand why so many women reach a point where living alone feels safer than sharing a home with a man. Part 2, the emotional bill comes due. For decades, many women are trained to be caretakers. They manage the emotions of their partners. They carry the household. They soften their opinions. They swallow disrespect so the relationship doesn't explode. They are praised when they are understanding and called difficult when they ask for more after 30, 40, even 50 years of doing this. The emotional bill comes due. One woman I worked with, I'll call her Teresa, spent 42 years in a marriage where she cooked, cleaned, took care of the children, and adjusted herself around her husband's temper. When her children finally moved out, she realized something without her role as a mother. There was nothing left in the relationship that truly fed her. She told me, "I felt more alone with him sitting in the next room than I feel now in my small apartment by myself." This is a critical psychological point. Loneliness is not about how many people are in your home. It's about whether you are seen, heard, and valued. Women like Teresa often choose to live alone, not because they hate men, but because they are done sacrificing themselves to keep a man comfortable. Their decision is usually not impulsive. It's the end of a long, painful math equation that finally comes out in favor of themselves. In a minute, I'll talk about the 3 types of older women who live alone, because not every story is like Teresa's, but stay with this first type a little longer because you might recognize yourself for this first type. Living alone is an act of emotional self-defense and self-respect. It is saying if the price of companionship is my peace, the price is too high, that is not bitterness, that is wisdom that has been paid for with years of tears. Part 3. The 3 archetypes. Now, not all older women who live alone are the same in my work. I see 3 broad patterns. As you listen, notice which one sounds most like you, because understanding your type will help you decide what to do with your independence.
Type 1, the peacekeeper. This is the woman like Teresa.
She has lived through conflict, neglect, or emotional labor that was never shared. Living alone is her way of finally turning down the volume on chaos. She often says things like, "I've done my time," or I refuse to argue with anyone in my own house again. Her independence is primarily about removing harm. Her home becomes a safe container where no one raises their voice, no one throws silent treatments, and no one makes her feel small. She may still crave companionship, but not at the cost of her hard-earned peace. Type 2, the late bloomer. This woman is not living alone because she was hurt, but because something inside her woke up. Maybe she always dreamed of studying, traveling, creating something, or simply living by her own rhythm. For years, she postponed herself. She stayed to raise children, support her husband's career, or fit into cultural expectations. Then one day, something shifts. A health scare, a birthday ending in a 0, the death of a friend, or simply the realization I don't have forever. She may or may not have a partner in the picture, but the central thing is this: she is finally choosing herself. A woman I'll call Lillian came to me after her husband passed away. She told me, "I loved him and I miss him, but I'm also discovering that I love being in charge of my own life. I arrange my day around my energy, not someone else's demands." For her, living alone became the soil where a new version of herself could grow. Type 3, the wounded warrior. This is the woman whose independence looks strong, but is actually built on old pain. She has been deeply betrayed, perhaps multiple times. She vows never to depend on a man again. She says things like, "I don't need anyone." But underneath, there is a part of her that still longs to be safely loved. For the wounded warrior, living alone can become a fortress. She feels powerful because no one can hurt her if no one gets close. The problem is the same walls that keep out pain also keep out genuine connection. In a few minutes, I'm going to explain the hidden danger for this third type and how to know if your independence is actually protecting a wound that still needs healing. That's one of the most important parts of this video, so stay with me. Part 4, solitude versus loneliness. People confuse solitude with loneliness. Psychologically, they are completely different experiences. Solitude is chosen. It has a purpose. It feels like a deep breath. In solitude, you can hear your own thoughts, reconnect with your body, feel your emotions without interruption. Many older women tell me that living alone allows them to finally listen to their inner voice. Loneliness, on the other hand, is not just being without people. It is being without emotional connection. You can feel lonely in a crowded house, in a marriage, or surrounded by family. A client named Elena once told me, "When my husband was alive, we barely spoke. The TV was on. He was in his chair. I was in the kitchen. I felt invisible now. I'm alone, but I feel more real to myself than I ever did then." Here is the truth. Most people miss. An older woman living alone may have less external noise, but more internal connection. She may have fewer people in her house, but more respect for herself. However, solitude can slowly slide into loneliness if one crucial element is missing. I'll explain that element shortly because if you live alone, this is what will protect your emotional health long term. Before we get there, I want to address one more uncomfortable truth: why so many older women simply stop caring about whether a man is in their home or not. Part 5, the cost-benefit analysis. After a lifetime of emotional labor, many older women simply reach a point where the cost-benefit no longer adds up. They look back and see years of making themselves smaller, forgiving without real repair, carrying the emotional weight, and they ask, for what? By the time a woman has raised children, maybe worked, maybe cared for aging parents, maybe supported a man who did not return that support, she may be tired in her soul, not just her body. So when people say she lives alone because she couldn't find a man, they're often missing the reality. She could have a man. She just doesn't want that kind of man, at that kind of price anymore. One woman said to me, "If a man comes into my life now, he can only add to it. If he tries to take over my space, my peace, or my mind, I will show him the door." That sentence reveals a deep shift in power. She is no longer auditioning for a man. Any man in her life is auditioning for her. In a moment, I'll talk about how this mindset can be both powerful and risky, because there is a way that "I don't need a man" can quietly turn into "I don't need anyone." And that's where many women start to hurt without understanding why. Part 6, the hidden danger. Now we come to the part most people avoid. Living alone can be a profound gift. It can also raise a very quiet, very dangerous question: if I disappear, who would really notice? For some women, the answer is reassuring. They have friendships, community, maybe children or grandchildren who are emotionally close. They feel part of a web of connection, even though they go home to a quiet space. For others, the answer is terrifying. They realize that while they have protected themselves from romantic pain, they have also slowly withdrawn from most other relationships. They have become so self-reliant that they no longer reach out when they are sad, scared, or sick. I remember a woman I'll call Denise. She prided herself on never asking for help. She lived alone, paid her bills, did her grocery shopping, and told me proudly, "I don't depend on anyone." But under the surface, there was a hollow ache. One day in therapy, she burst into tears and said, "If I fell tomorrow and couldn't get up, who would even know? I've spent my whole life making sure no one could hurt me, and now no one really knows me." This is the hidden danger. Independence turning into isolation. Emotional walls that started as protection become a prison. In a couple of minutes, I'll give you a specific way to check if this is happening to you, and a practical step you can take to keep your independence while also keeping your heart open. Before that, we need to talk about the one critical mistake that turns independence into self-sabotage. Part 7, the number one mistake. Here's the mistake I see over and over again in older women who live alone. They confuse a survival strategy with their identity. Being independent is a strategy. It's a way of living that protected you from chaos, disrespect, or disappointment. It served you. But when you start to believe, "I am the woman who needs no one, ever," you lock yourself into a role that does not allow your human needs. You are not weak because you want to be loved. You are not foolish because you want to be held. You are not a failure because sometimes the silence feels heavy. The strongest older women I know are not the ones who say, "I need nothing and no one." They are the ones who say, "I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I still choose connection." I am not ashamed to want warmth when independence becomes your entire identity. You start to reject anyone and anything that might see your softer side. You minimize your health issues. You don't tell anyone when you're emotionally overwhelmed, and you feel almost embarrassed when you crave companionship. The tragedy is that this version of independence keeps you physically safe, but emotionally starved. In a moment, I'll share a simple question you can ask yourself that will show you whether your independence is healthy or whether it's turned into armor. That question can change the way you relate to yourself and to others. Part 8, the health test. Ask yourself this. If there were a man who respected my boundaries, cherished my peace, and honored my individuality, would I still reject the idea of sharing my life with him? If your honest answer is yes, I might be open to that kind of man, then your independence is likely healthy. You're not against connection. You're against mistreatment. You're not against love. You're against losing yourself. If your answer is no, even then I wouldn't allow anyone close, then your independence may be more about protection than freedom. It may be an emotional cast around an old fracture that never fully healed. A woman with healthy independence can say, "I am okay, alone, and I am open to good company." A woman whose independence is a shield says, "I would rather starve than risk being hurt again." If you recognize yourself in that second description, it doesn't mean you've failed. It means a younger part of you, the part that was betrayed, abandoned, or neglected, is still running the show. That part doesn't care how old you are. She only cares that you don't get hurt again. In a few minutes, I'm going to give you a practical exercise to begin talking to that younger part of you so she doesn't have to control your entire future. First, let's look at the real strengths that many older women living alone have developed, because those strengths are the foundation you can build on. Part 9. The secret advantages. Earlier I told you I would reveal 3 secret advantages that many older women who live alone have. These are real psychological strengths that often appear in my office. Advantage 1. Radical clarity. Women who live alone by choice often know themselves more clearly than they ever did before, without constantly adjusting to a man's moods or a family's demands. They learn their own preferences, values, and limits. They know what kind of conversation drains them, what kind of behavior they will not tolerate, and what kind of energy they will allow into their space. This clarity makes them far less vulnerable to manipulation, advantage to emotional boundaries. After years of giving too much, many of these women have learned how to say no without apologizing. They are less likely to ignore red flags. They have felt the cost of staying too long in unhealthy dynamics, and they are not interested in repeating those lessons. A woman named June once told me, "If a man comes to my door with chaos in his eyes, I don't invite him in, not even for coffee." That's a boundary born from experience. Advantage 3. Inner authority. Perhaps the most powerful advantage is inner authority. They no longer outsource their worth to whether a man calls, texts, proposes, or stays. They have learned to trust their own judgment. They have seen themselves survive heartbreak, build a life, and get back up. This inner authority is what allows them to look at their solitude not as punishment, but as a valid lifestyle. They are not waiting to be rescued. They are capable of choosing, not just accepting, what comes. These advantages mean that if they ever choose to share their life again, it will be from a place of strength, not desperation. In a moment, I'll share the practical exercise I promised, the one that helps you protect these strengths while healing the part of you that may still be afraid of real connection. Part 10. The exercise. Here is the exercise I share with many of my older female clients who live alone. First, imagine the younger version of yourself who was most hurt in love. It might be you at 20, 35, 50, or any age. See her clearly in your mind, what she wore, what she hoped for, how she felt when things fell apart. Now write a letter to her from the woman you are today. In that letter, you do 3 things. You acknowledge what she went through. You name the betrayal, the neglect, the loneliness she faced. You thank her for how hard she worked to protect you. You recognize that her decision to armor up and be independent kept you safe at times when you needed it. You gently let her know that you, the older, wiser version, are in charge now. Tell her, you don't have to make every decision for me anymore. I can keep us safe without cutting us off from all love. When women actually do this, something powerful happens. Their independence stops feeling like a rigid shield and starts feeling like a choice. They can still live alone, still protect their peace, but they become more open to honest friendship, healthy community, and possibly, in some cases, a healthier love. If you are an older woman living alone without a man, I want you to hear this clearly. Your life is not a failure. Your home is not a punishment. In many cases, it is the first time in your life that the space around you truly belongs to you. The truth about women like you is that you have walked through fire, and you are not interested in walking through it again for the sake of saying, you have a man in your house. You have earned your right to peace. At the same time, I don't want your hard-earned independence to turn into a cage. You deserve connection that does not cost you your sanity. You deserve to be known, not just admired, for being strong. Remember the key points. Solitude can be nourishing when it's chosen and connected to a life of meaning. Loneliness becomes dangerous when you're too proud or too afraid to reach out. Independence is healthy when it is a choice, not the only way you feel safe. If you recognize that you've been using independence to hide your wounds, it is not too late to heal. Your age does not disqualify you from love, from friendship, or from emotional growth. In many ways, this stage of life is exactly when your deepest wisdom is ready to emerge. You are not invisible just because there is no man sitting on your couch. Your value is not hanging on a ring, a status, or a last name. Your life, as it is right now, has weight, meaning, and beauty. And if you stay with yourself long enough with honesty and compassion, you will discover that living alone does not mean living unloved. It means you finally get to decide who and what is allowed to share your space, your time, and your heart.